Hello, cutie pie. One of us is in deep trouble.
Sven, do you want to talk to Mr. Richards? Well?
I got to score some steroids.
You look pissed, Ben. Believe me, you got every right to be. But hey, will you just let me explain? This is television, that's all it is. It's nothing to do with people, it's to do with the ratings. For 50 years, we've told them what to eat, what to drink, what to wear. For Christ's sake, Ben, don't you understand? Americans love television. They wean their kids on it. Listen, they love game shows, they love wrestling, they love sports, violence. So what do? We give them what they want. We're number one, Ben. That's all that counts. Believe me, I've been in the business 30 years.
Well, I haven't been in show business as long as you have, Killian. But I'm a quick learner. So I'm going to give the audience what I think they want.
You bastard! Drop dead!
I don't do requests. Well, that hit the spot.
New equipment today, so doing a little visual experimentation. So as you can see in the clip that precedes this commentary, The Running Man, which was a action film in the 1980s, that was, mildly successful. Wasn't a critical darling, but wasn't a bomb either. Was certainly successful at the box office. Has become very, very, prescient about, has been proven to be prescient about what life in 2017 is really like. And aside from the surface comparisons, the most powerful man in America in an authoritarian state being a game show host, which is an obvious parallel to Donald Trump. There are deeper and further reaching implications for this idea of control by distraction. And I mean, you can trace this bread and circuses ruling philosophy all the way back to the Roman Empire, which is, the de facto birthplace of fascism. It is also applicable today where the seeds of the Trump administration were planted in the 1980s. You know, Donald Trump is an icon of the 1980s, and he is an evolution, and most would say a de-evolution of Reagan. Reagan was the TV president. Reagan was the president who was very concerned with optics. It was a gimmick that he was a movie star, you know, a B-level movie star who became president. I will give Ronald Reagan that at least he had some kind of experience governing, and could at least create a semi-functional coalition with Democrats, even if it was often to the disadvantage of working class and poor people. That's not to excuse any of the massive atrocities that Ronald Reagan committed at home and abroad. But it seems like we're getting diminishing returns on our tabloid celebrity presidents in this country. The reality box. That idea popped into my head. When watching the film, I remember, you know, when I was growing up, my dad's generation called the TV the idiot box. But I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't make that broad of an assertion, or at least not that tainted of a label for television. I think that TV has value as a creative medium and a medium for spreading information. There was an era in this country when news was not for profit and was like a separate division within these major broadcasting networks. So, you know, there are no absolutes here. So I'm going to use the term reality box, not only to refer to traditional television, but also its offspring in the other little boxes that we are hypnotized by on a daily basis. Laptops, computers, cell phones, movie theaters. This kind of idea of these boxes that construct a reality for us. Trump came from the reality box. Trump sold his credentials. Trump sold his credentials as a leader, and it was proven to be ephemera. It was proven to be an image, a character that he played. You're fired. And his rallies, he still goes on and on about, you know, he just hits his catchphrase. And he stands there and waits for applause, he is on television, but I mean, he stands there like he's performing for, a game show. You know, say the catchphrase and absorb the applause. He's fired. You're fired. That's where we've landed. I feel like 2017 is a year where people don't know who they are without the reality box, where people don't know what to do, what to eat, what to drink, who to vote for without the reality box. We've been weaned on it. We've been shaped by it. And I'm not denouncing all popular culture, and I'm not denouncing the value of entertainment, but I'm just saying the powers that be, and it's not necessarily nefarious, right? Like, it's not a bunch of guys in a room, twirling mustaches and talking, moo-hoo-hoo-ha-ha. We're going to control these chumps. I'm sure some of them are like that. But there's like a banality of evil thing to this. This isn't about people, right? This is from the Running Man speech, the finale speech by Richard Dawson, the villain. Killian, the game show host of the Running Man TV show. Nothing personal. This is about ratings, this is about numbers, this is about statistics, this is about the greater good, this is about giving people wholesome entertainment, distraction from their miserable lives. And it goes back to something like so simple as being a kid. Like, at least in my house, you could watch television or play video games or your Game Boy or whatever. You could go to the reality box, and you were taught to take it with a grain of salt. You realize that the fantasy stopped there, that it wasn't, at least in my house, and I'm sure in plenty of other houses, I think the average person, we can detect artifice in its most vulgar forms. I think where we get played is in the subtle forms of priming. I think we get played in the subtle cues about what it means to be beautiful and what it means to be safe and what it means to be happy and what it means to be part of a community. There are people who financially benefit from constructing our wants and manipulating our desires, and that is largely done by these rectangles that lure you in with content. Some content is great, some content is beautifully written, produced content, and then advertising happens because the average worker doesn't have the money to buy their entertainment or information straight up, so they end up becoming dependent on the provider of entertainment or information selling their eyeballs to advertisers. And once you land in that for-profit endeavor, I'm talking specifically about the spectacle of news and the spectacle of information and the sort of both the horse race politics element that controls broadcast politics and the culture war stuff that animates the cable news sphere. I'm talking about the revenue, the ad revenue based YouTube political content that they have to twist every news story to accommodate the assumptions of their fan base, because that's how for-profit content, infotainment content works. Your audience has a designated idea about the world, and it is most profitable to tell them that their preferred enemy, gay people, lesbians, non-binary people, non-white people, immigrants, people who don't speak English, follow the line of preferred enemies, and then just wrap everything around them. I've seen stories by right-wing media outlets on YouTube talking about how the left is using free lunch programs to normalize pedophilia. I've seen YouTube right-leaning content talk about how Wonder Woman is a conspiracy to cuck men, and turn women into lesbians. And it's because, again, they need to take the world at large and they need to contextualize it for you in a way that's, number one, profitable for them. And in order for it to be profitable to them, it has to be comfortable for you. It has to be something that you desire and come back for. It has to be sucor, right? Like, it has to be like mom's titty when you're a baby. And as long as anyone from gamers to right-wingers to liberals are being fed by the titty of mollification rather than by the stern hand of information, you're going to continue to have a society of slaves to the box.